Hello everyone, I'm Syamantak Payra, and welcome to my Spelling Bee Workshop series on YouTube. Many of you have watched videos of the Spelling Bee Workshop series that I conducted at Friendswood Public Library 2 years ago in the summer of 2016. And after that, ever since then, many of you have been requesting that I re-record the videos so you can have all of the content in one place. So 2 years later, that's exactly what I've done. Just like the original workshops, anybody can enjoy these videos and the content within them. At the workshops, I had kids as young as 1st and 2nd grade attending, and adults as old as grandparents who used to do spelling bees back in their day and just wanted to learn some more. It had been a while, and they just were interested in the content. So it's really anyone of any background that can watch these videos and learn a lot from them. I am going to be tailoring a little bit of the content towards spelling bee strategies, so helping you figure out exactly how to identify the language patterns in some of these different languages, and how to know what sort of letter combinations exist in the different languages that have been adopted into English words. There will be 8 videos after this one, the introduction, and I'm going to cover a variety of languages that have all contributed words to English. In this video, I'm just going to go over some basics of the spelling bee, some study tips, and a bit of background about where all this sort of comes from. So, my sort of background comes from many years of doing spelling bees. Here's some snapshots of my spelling bee past. I competed at spelling bees at all the levels. I competed starting in 3rd grade up until the limit of 8th grade. I have won a national championship of the 2012 South Asian Spelling Bee. I tied for 7th place at the 2013 Scripps National Spelling Bee. So I've been around quite a lot and competed and learned a lot about these different languages that contribute to English and the linguistic and etymological patterns that really make the language that we speak the language that it is. That being said, all of the words that I'm going to cover in these video series are going to come from Merriam-Webster's Third New International Unabridged Dictionary, which is the official dictionary of the spelling bee. Now, if you're looking at the official paper copy of the dictionary, that looks a little bit like this. Now, this is a lot to just hold, let alone flip through and learn all the words from. While there is an online version, learning words from the dictionary is kind of haphazard and pretty hard to do organization-wise. So what I've attempted to do is give you some insight into the way that I prepared a little bit, is take it language by language and try to figure out what sorts of patterns exist that can help you figure out how to spell the word when you're on stage and haven't seen a word that you've been asked, to help you figure out exactly how it's spelled. So this is a little bit of background about how these languages have flown into English. The timeline at the top of the slide is a bit of a rough outline of how English as a language came to be. We were formed on a basis of Latin and Anglo-Saxon combined, so we have that English nature, but with a good helping of Latin and Greek words thrown in, along with the rest of the Romance languages, the descendants of Latin, like French, Italian, and Spanish, as well as a Germanic basis. We have Old Norse and various Germanic languages that sort of form like the grammatical patterns that we use in spoken English and written English today. In addition to that, relatively recently on a global time scale, as the history books will tell you, when various colonists and settlers went around the world bringing English with them, they also took the other languages back when they went back to their home countries. Which is why English as a language has many, many words from languages from around the world. And they usually carry that vestige of that culture with them, whether it's food or clothing or other things that people of a particular culture enjoy. Those words are going to be present in English. And the way that this helps us, as you might see, is, for example, a word that's in Spanish, like jalapeno or sombrero, is going to have a bit of a different flavor, both sound-wise and spelling-wise, than a word that's in a different language, like Italian, for example, where spaghetti is really distinct from sombrero in the way that it's spelled. So when all of these related, whether closely or distantly, languages have flown into English, we can take a look back and try to figure out what these sound and spelling patterns are. Now, how is this actually going to help you, you might ask, when you're sitting there or standing there at the stage of the spelling bee? So here's a rough outline of an algorithm I've made to help you figure out how this thought process works at the competition itself. When you're there and you've been asked a word at the very beginning, there are a set of questions that you're allowed to ask the pronouncer and the judges to help you sort of get a clue into what the spelling might be. You can ask the pronouncer to repeat the word. They will repeat the word to you and give you any alternate pronunciations if the dictionary has it listed. And beyond that, you can ask a couple questions. You can ask for the definition, what does the word mean? You can ask for the etymology, what languages did this word come through before it arrived in English? What is the part of speech? Is it a noun, a verb, an adjective, an adverb? You can ask the pronouncer or the judge to use it in a sentence, so you can hear the word in context, and it might help jog your memory a little bit as to what exactly the word is. And you process that in your brain, and this is where all of your studying and knowledge of linguistics and etymologies comes in, and you can actually piece those parts together as sort of different pieces of a puzzle to make that full picture of what the word is going to be and how exactly it's spelled. If you're confident with your judgment, you can go on and spell the word, making sure to repeat the word before and after you spell so they know you've started and you've finished. And if you're not, you can repeat the questions for as many times as you want until the timer runs out. And this entire process involves that sort of love of learning that drives you to understand what exactly is happening on like a molecular spelling level, and applying that both scientifically and artistically. There's a lot of creativity that goes into this, into the languages themselves, and the science that brings that analytical mindset about understanding how it all works. Now, I know a lot of you ask me for study tips that can help you in the spelling bee, and here's some general feedback that I have for you. There are words all around you in the everyday world, whether it's labels on food, or just new places and geographical terms, or other scientific terms, or artistic terms. There are words everywhere. Write them down. Keep a journal, a notebook, a document on the computer, and you can review those words and learn them better. Ask people around you to quiz you, whether it's family, it's friends, or it's teachers. Take that list and hand it to them, and have them quiz you on it. And then when you get some words wrong, make another list with the ones you specifically got wrong and review those even more, so you can keep that churning process and keep them alive in your mind and learn those spellings by heart. Some other cool ways to find words is solving crossword puzzles. There's been a vocabulary component in some spelling bees, and being able to reformulate the word from the definition in a crossword puzzle is really good exercise in helping you figure out whether or not you have your vocabulary expanded to that point, where you can correctly associate the spelling and the word with the meaning, and use it too whenever you're writing. A lot of the time it helps to figure out what exactly your learning style is. Some people are very visual learners. It helps if you read word lists and have all the information in front of you. Some people are auditory learners. It might help to pull up the dictionary website and play the audio pronunciation, or even record yourself saying words and make a word list like that. And of course, as with any competition, keep setting progressive goals for yourself. Failure is inevitable, but that's how you grow. Keep on practicing and keep on learning. For a couple broad concepts, these are some things that I found challenging to begin with. Don't get discouraged if you see a tough word. That word is going to only remain tough for as long as you don't know it. When you learn it, now you know it. When people often ask me, what's the hardest word you know? I tell them it's a really tough question to answer, because as soon as you learn a word, it's not that tough anymore, because you know it now. But don't expect that process to happen overnight. Just as when you were a child, you didn't learn a language overnight, you sort of picked it up and absorbed it as it was around you. If you keep on exposing yourself to all these new words from different languages, they're still in English, eventually you'll start picking them up more often. It'll take up that place in your brain where language resides, and you'll be able to use it just as fluidly as any of the other words you know. For competition-specific tips, watch other spelling bees and see how champion spellers attack their words, whether it's focusing and writing their word with their fingertip on your placard or on your hand, or other mnemonic methods that help you remember words. Learn from these techniques and try to figure out what works for you. For parents, family, teachers of spellers, encourage and support your students. It's a lot of dedication that goes into wanting to pursue a competition like this, and spellers need all the support they can get. Now for spellers, when you're on that stage, ask as many questions as possible. Remember everything you've gone through to learn these words when you've been studying them the first and 10th and 100th time around, and use everything that's available to you to try to jog your memory of that. And of course, at the end of any competition, regardless of whether you won a trophy, the knowledge that you gain in the process of preparing for these spelling bees are going to be a lifelong companion for you. Whether it's the vocabulary that you gained, and not just standardized tests like the SAT, where it's a very, very big boon, but even being able to write more fluidly as a result of having a better understanding of vocabulary that allows you to read more complex writing and decipher it and also write at a higher level. That to the study tips that you gain, the study skills and the dedication, and just putting yourself down to the grind and learning something is a skill that's going to benefit throughout higher education and realistically for the rest of your life. Thanks for watching this video. I hope it helped you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in each of the videos in the rest of the series. Stay tuned for the next 8 variety of language videos, and looking forward to seeing you in them.